Good morning, all. This is Frank Latte. We're here with our team meeting, our weekly training, group supervision here that we have at Lartey Wellness Group, and it's all in our efforts to provide world-class counseling and mental health services. So today, the topic is going to be the differences between counseling or providing services to children versus adults. Especially on the virtual, especially when you're doing virtual sessions. And we're going to be doing this to really help folks and to give you all a therapist perspective, a therapist point of view, right? As I told my staff earlier, a lot of times people like the comments that I get on these videos is, oh, wow, it lets me see that my therapist is human, right? It gives me a different scope on it, right? And for better or worse, it can be debated on whether or not you should, et cetera, et cetera. But I think in terms of training, in terms of just overall trying to strengthen your core counseling things, this is great. And so, Melissa, could you start off with us and just reiterate what you stated before we started recording? If you can go on, if you all can do the video, that'd be great too. If not, completely understand.
I am Melissa Smith. I'm one of the resident therapist interns at Lartey. And so one of the challenges I have found working with kids is, at least, or challenges, differences between working with kids and adults, is that with adults, they kind of lead where they want to go, like what they want to talk about, what they want to work on. But with kids, they're usually kind of told by their parents, hey, you're gonna, speak with this therapist once a week. And so sometimes the kids don't really see a need or have anything that they want to talk about or work on, especially the younger kids. So I guess it would be helpful, at least for me, to kind of be able to navigate that better, and also kind of know, is it appropriate to kind of shape those sessions with the younger kids more than you would shape with the adults, as far as like structure and kind of leading them to what their parent wants them to work on? But at the same time, maybe having them talk about, like, hey, mom says she's seeing this issue in you. What do you think, kind of thing. But if they say, I don't see that as an issue, then it's kind of like, okay, now what? So it's kind of navigating that part.
This is Laurie again. This is Laurie Persh, and I'm one of the supervisors here for the sake of the recording. And since people have already got, Melissa, you've already gotten my feedback, I would love to hear everybody else's, but I'm going to throw something else out that you made me think of for the discussion, which is, confidentiality with kids versus confidentiality with adults, because of how much do you share with the parents, and how do you involve the parents? And so some of it's philosophical for your therapeutic approach, and some of it is, ethical and state-driven regulations. So there's a lot that goes into it. And so I would really love to hear the discussion on it. But, and it's thinking about, well, who is your client? Is your client just that child, or is your client the child and the family? Because the child has to live with that family. No matter whether you're seeing them individually or not, you might think about the idea that the parents are guiding a lot. So you think about, who is your client? So those are just a couple of other things that I would throw out that are related to this discussion.
And so what I heard was, when you're dealing with children here, what is the confidentiality piece of it, right? When do you involve the parent, and when you don't? Anyone want to tackle this?
But one of the things that I have noticed with the kids is that when, for some kids, they're able to sit through a session. Other kids cannot naturally sit through a session when it's virtual. So that has been my notice with the kids. For those who are able to sit through a session, I'm okay with that. But other kids, naturally, I think they would benefit from in-person sessions. So that was one of my contributions.
On the confidentiality piece and that, and basically, well, I guess before we jump there, in regards to kids and sessions, I think I kind of leave that up to the therapist to make your assessment, right? I think that we all can really assess whether or not the therapy session is going well or whether or not it's not, right? After a month of working with the client, you kind of have a rough idea. Oh man, this client. And I would also say, like, also look at your own personal feelings, right? What I mean by that. What I mean by that is whether or not you're dealing with child or adults. There's some clients that you just don't feel like working with. And when they're on your calendar, when they're on for that Tuesday at 12, that Tuesday at 1 p.m., Tuesday at 6 p.m., your whole mood changes. You start feeling depressed. You just don't really want to work with them. And if you find yourself like that, if you have like a child client or so, or if you find yourself working with children and it's not really going well, I would say then I would involve the parent and say, hey, to be honest with you, this is my concern. This is where we are, and I don't really think it's we're able to meet the goals that we outlined here. I may not be a good fit, or your child may not be a good fit for the virtual setting. Can we get a referral for another one? I'm not saying to try, not to try. I guess me personally, my philosophy is that unfortunately I'm not a good fit. I'm not a good fit for every person that comes in, right? Whether children or adults. And so just knowing yourself and knowing those strengths and weaknesses, because then when you try to do something that you're not, or even with the case of the children, when they're in there and their heart's not in it, it becomes a waste. It becomes a really waste of time, and it just becomes unpleasant. And then you yourself, I don't know, it's just an unpleasant experience, and now you're living in misery for the next months or so. Thoughts? Am I alone on that? Is everybody else, whether children or adults? And hey, when is it time to say, let's say if you're dealing with a child and they're only because their parents are doing it. How do you all handle it?
So Frank, just introducing myself, I'm Jennifer. I'm a licensed graduate professional counselor here at Lartey Wellness. So this is something where even like session to session basis, it's even a struggle, because when you're working with young teenagers and they don't want to be there, but like it's agreed they need therapy, right? They're feeling depressed, they're feeling anxious, they need coping skills. They don't want to talk to their parents. They don't talk to their friends about it for whatever reason. But, right, so therapy seems like a good option. But you have that stare down for 10 minutes where they don't say a single word, right? When we learn how to be comfortable with silence. So I have gotten to that point recently with a client and the mother where we talked about, all right, this is what therapy is. This is why therapy can be helpful. Do you think therapy is a good fit? Mom says yes. Client says no. So what we did was we took a 4-week break, and the client did some journaling on her phone. Well, it's journaling, right? But for the client, it was taking her notes app out and just writing down how she felt whenever she remembered to do it. She remembered twice. So that was something, right? For the 4 weeks of not really wanting to participate or anything, having the 4 weeks off, doing the journaling. But then after that 4 weeks, she wanted to talk to me without her mom present. And we talked for about 15 minutes uninterrupted about what she was feeling emotionally, the event that occurred that made her feel that way, which is more than I've ever gotten out of her. And then that was it. She was done sharing, but we got 15 minutes of a therapy session. And I didn't push it. I didn't like point it out or anything. And that was it. So that could be something, right? I guess in summary, giving a break to the child so they can see, all right, maybe there is some value in therapy. And then not pushing it, not being like, okay, so why was this session important for you, right? Like meeting them where they are in the sense that they don't want to talk about this to begin with. but they finally felt okay to talk about it with a stranger. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer. Any comments on what Jennifer said?
This is Laurie again. Thanks, Jennifer. I think the idea of a break is great. Sometimes you got some parents who are under concerned and some parents versus or caretakers, whatever, who are over concerned. So sometimes parents are over concerned and bring their child to therapy, and it's more the parents need psychoeducation and the child doesn't need to be pushed about problems, and so they can get a break. But so there are all different kinds of ways to involve the parents. And Jennifer, you gave a good example of when a break is helpful. And even just giving a child space to talk about why are your parents overly concerned and how do you deal with that. And normalizing that maybe there isn't anything terrible with them. Is a good thing. And I've recommended breaks before for children. But yeah, no, that sounds really good. As far as the fit that Frank you mentioned, for beginning counselors, sometimes it all feels uncomfortable. So I would just say you have to balance out, get supervision, and try to expand your skills so that you at least know if in the future it's going to be a fit for you or not. Sometimes you do have to expand yourself and try a little bit, but of course, if nothing's working and you've gotten supervision, then, sometimes it's just not the right fit.
And I say that because it's like we see all the client complaints. Right? Every client complaint that comes in there. We're looking at it, we're analyzing it, then we're reaching back out to the therapist. And I noticed that at a certain point, like me looking at it at let's say a 60,000 view, I know the therapists that have a passion for therapy and the therapists that, oh my gosh, I just spent so much money on my grad degree. I have to do therapy because there's nothing else for me to do. But man, I really don't enjoy it. All right. You see the difference. You when you're looking at it, when you're looking at it and when you're looking at things and you're looking at those whole things. And so for me, it's more like going beyond. Right. I'm trying to look at it from a therapist point of view to say, hey, look, is it even just a good fit for you in general? Right. Like, are you gonna continue to lie to yourself? Right. So and those are harsh words. You shouldn't say that. But I think sometimes when you are in a service driven thing and you feel like, oh, I have to do this or I'm doing that, that pressure, right? That pressure, those things, it can get to you after a while. And so just really knowing your strengths, like Lori said, and I mean, hey, if you give it a good faith effort and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But knowing how to gracefully terminate a relationship that's not working, because the problem is a lot of therapists, they're empaths, right? Where they don't want to hurt the other person's feelings, or they really want to do this, and oh man, what's the client gonna say, and this and this that they end up really just being detrimental to themselves. Any thoughts on that? Sorry, we kind of went off topic there.
I did want to talk about really quick, when you do have a client that is an adolescent, and when the parent insists on coming into the session, and even though you told the parent that, excuse me, you guys, even though you told the parent that it is the child's decision, because that is the child's decision and it's their session, They don't understand that the child has the right to refuse therapy. That's the input I wanted to give. Parents sometimes don't understand. They go, she's only 14 years old. How does she get a chance to make that decision? They have a very difficult time understanding that the child is the actual client. That was my input. Thank you for listening. I got to go now. My throat hurts.
Thank you. Oh, speedy recovery.
Thank you. So what do you guys think of when the parent insists on the child, no, you can't just now not let my child not see you. She has to see you. And the parent doesn't understand that the child has rights as well.
I think maybe on that case, like talking more with the parent about maybe kind of like why they're so insistent on their child having therapy, and getting kind of more of a background information from the parent on what their concerns are.
And then how do you, like, if you have a client who feels like, if you're talking to me, you're breaking my I don't want you talking to my parent. She wants me to have therapy, but if she wants me to have therapy and you still talking to her, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think the way I handle it with child clients is is at least for the somewhat older kid clients, like early teens or teens, is letting them know, hey, everything we talk about in sessions is kept confidential, with, of course, the exceptions of if you're going to hurt yourself or others. And I even like tell them, and if you tell me that you like won the lottery and you're a millionaire now, I don't tell your parent that you won the lottery. So just letting them know, and then letting them know, hey, at the end of each session, I'm going to talk with your parent just to schedule the next session. If they ask me like what we talked about, I'm going to be very generic and not share too many details or information. Just letting them know, yeah, the session went well. They shared with me some things, but keeping it very generic. And also inviting the child to like kind of stick around for the end, like when you do talk with the parent, to either schedule that next session or kind of wrap up for the day, allowing the child to sit in on that so that they can hear exactly what you tell the parent. And then the next time you have a session with the child, asking them, hey, was that okay? Are you comfortable with that? And then, inviting them into that therapeutic alliance and getting their input about that.
Thank you. I like that one. Having the child come in, the meeting with the parent afterwards, and having the child included. I like that part. I think I will try that the next time. I think I like that a lot. It's the overbearing parent. I think also that is that overbearing parent that will call you after the session is over. That overbearing parent that will take the phone from the child during the session and say, oh no, she's not talking about what she's supposed to be talking about. That parent. But I like that, Melissa, a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I honestly haven't come across any clients or parents of clients like that just yet. So this is helpful to prepare me in case I'm faced with anything like that too.
So the case is, I have the overbearing parent that wants to know what's going on, wants to do that. I think I had one scenario where it was a teenager, but the parent wanted to talk to me in regards to the fact that they knew the teenager's tendencies, meaning that the teenager, what we're supposed to talk about, the goals in sessions. So let's say we're supposed to be talking about past traumatic experiences or your depressed mood. They talk about everything else but that, right? It's avoidance. And the parent wanted to let me know that, hey, look, I know my child, right? I know that essentially when they go to these sessions, they don't stick to the topic at hand. So just be aware of that and really, really force them to, go deeper, because I know that they always stick with the surface level because they've been in therapy for quite a long time. And so in that scenario, I actually brought that up with the client. I was like, well, is it, your parent brought this up to me, and I am noticing some truth to that, and so let's talk about it. And luckily we were able to talk about it, and we were able to talk about their avoidance, and we were able to talk about this. But let's say if it went bad and they just denied it altogether and they just continued to be on that denial, right? That, oh no, don't listen to them. My parent, they don't know what they're talking about, or I don't deny, or I don't do this. And, it's, for me, I'm wondering what are some actionable things when you are in those really, really tough, sticky situations, right? Where the child isn't really just, they're in therapy, but they're not in therapy. I think Jennifer gave us something where she took a break. Anyone else? Any other strategies to use other than taking a break, or any other helpful stuff?
I know one thing that was mentioned in one of my supervisions with Lori was assuming the child doesn't deny, just asking them, okay, so it seems like this is something that is very hard for you to even think about, let alone talk about. So when you think about talking about it on a scale of like 1 to 10, what's your anxiety level, or what's your kind of fear level, and trying to see if you can work on getting that anxiety or fear level down enough to where they can start talking about it. And just kind of skirting around the edge without really talking about the actual thing or event, but trying to get some background information on, and even trying to get the client just to maybe say, yes, something happened, but I really don't want to talk about it, or I'm really scared about talking about it. And then starting with that. Someone mentioned before, meeting the client where they're at. And so, and even if the client denies that anything ever happened, starting there, start meeting them where they're at, starting there, and maybe talking about how things happen in life where, bad things happen, and maybe even talking about the dangers of suppressing that or not talking about it can maybe enlighten the client to be like, you're right, that's true, and I do want to talk about it. So things like that.
Agreed. Okay.
And Frank, I was going to say, and also talk with the client to find out what would make them more comfortable to talk about it. How much time do you think you need? What can I do to help you feel more comfortable to talk about it?
There you go. Excellent. Okay. All right. 11:40 here. We didn't get a chance to go to Blueprint, but we will